Emotional consideration paid for by the following. The Ohio Neck and Back Pain Relief Center, Scott M. Gray, D.C., across from the Marion Center between TSC and Kroger. For further information, dial 740-386-6580. Also located on the net at goodbackbadback.com. Dreiss Roofing and Contracting, LLC, located at 370 East Church Street right here in Marion. For more information, call 740-751-9516. Specializing in roofing, siding, decks, garages, windows, pole buildings, and complete homes. For more information, again, call Dan Rice, 740-751-9516.
Hey, Scott Spears along with you on a Friday edition of The Exchange, joined by Charlie Evers, Marianne Michaels, Dooley the Clown, Martha Douse Manesi, and Dorothy Cooper Brown, who coming up on September the 30th will be with Martha Douse Manesi leading the Harding Band football players on the field at the homecoming game. Going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to talk about that today. Before we do anything else, though, we need to mention that there are other things going on for other schools in the area, and certainly one of those is Marion Catholic. Big 2011-2012 Irish Lucky 10 cash raffle. If you want more information on this, go to www.marioncatholic.org. $30 for one ticket or 4 tickets for $100. You can win $1,000, $100, $75, $50 prizes, all kinds of good stuff. Kicks off on November the 9th. Proceeds go to the Marion Catholic Junior Senior High School. And if you want tickets, you can call Martha Douse at 38-DANCE. So get your tickets now. That's a very big cash prize. Now, Friday, Charlie, fascinating facts.
ExchangeMarion.com. That's where you'll find us. And this is the time of the year when the Buckeyes are falling off the Buckeye trees. However, some people are confused. Some pick up a horse chestnut and say, look at this Buckeye. But there's a difference between a horse chestnut and a Buckeye. Do you know what it is?
What is it?
It's the number of, well, the horse chestnut may be a little bit bigger and a little bit odd shaped, but the leaves on a horse chestnut tree are 7. On a Buckeye, 5. That's the big difference. So if you're walking down the street and see a bunch of Buckeyes, look up and count the leaves. You don't want a horse chestnut.
You don't? No, you don't.
And you don't want to eat a Buckeye either.
Those are poisonous, right?
Yeah, they're supposed to be sickening, I guess you'd call eating a Buckeye.
Absolutely. We're going to slide on over to Marianne Michaels for the quote of the day, words of wisdom.
Well, again, it's give it your best. And this is one that Thomas Edison said. It's very short, but it has a lot of meaning. There is a better way to do it. Find it. And that's, of course, what he did. He had a better way to do a lot of things, and that's why he was such a good inventor. He followed his own advice.
He absolutely did, and that's a very good thing to do. And I think something that's also interesting, I think people should create their own originality. I think that's important, to be an original. You know, if people are looking at you funny, as far as I'm concerned, you're doing the right thing. So Charlie must be doing the right thing, because a lot of people look at him funny. There you go. He could be our clown on this show. I want to start off this episode by talking to Martha Douse and Dorothy Cooper Brown here. We'll start with Dorothy. Dorothy, how did your association with Martha Douse begin?
Well, it began back in the 8th grade. We moved to Marion. I moved with my mother, and I didn't really like Marion school, so I wanted to go back where I was, and I did eventually go back. But when Martha and I met, it was really strange. It was almost like we'd always known each other. We got along very well. We didn't stay apart. We just, clicked. Just one of those things. And but I eventually did go back and start high school at Kenton, but then I came back to Harding to be in the band with Martha.
Now, what did you do in the band?
I was a majorette,
Majorette, along with Martha.
along with Martha.
And what was your position back then? What did you do? Did you lead the band on the field, or how did?
That's exactly what we did, yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we did.
So coming up on September the 30th, what will exactly happen?
I hope we march. I hope we don't falter,
You'll have your
We are a few
batons.
years older,
When's the last time you did this?
I think 62 years ago.
Whoa, 62 years, Martha?
Yes, we're both 80.
My goodness.
You know what we did when we was 12?
What's that?
Went to slumber parties all the time.
That's an interesting point, Dorothy. We know Martha now at 80 years old, but what was she like in the 8th grade?
Oh, she was a lot of fun. We just got along very well, and we traded clothes all the time. My mother said one time if we ever got angry with each other on the street and demanded our clothes back, we were in trouble.
Martha has her own, she's an original without a doubt. What was she like then as opposed to now, personality-wise? Has it been pretty much the same?
Pretty much the same, I think, in a way. She's a little bit more flamboyant now than she was then. One of our classmates mentioned that to me in our last reunion, that said, I was in the grade with her with the 9th grade, and she wasn't like this then. I said, she's gotten older, gotten more, sophisticated, knows what she's doing.
Well, Martha's been dressing like this for the 30 years I've known her. So this is not exactly a new thing. But back in the 8th grade, I'm sure it was different. Martha, did you used to dress more casual when you were in high school?
Well, we had a wonderful costume to wear. Elaine Everett was the third one, Dorothy and myself. And then in the senior year, I had 2 of my students join the Harding Band. Michael Fellebaum, 5, Max Carroll, Carroll's Jewelry Store's son, Harold Carroll. They were part of the band. They were mascots. And Charlie Evers, Michael Fellebaum ended up being the drum major for the Spartans in Michigan.
Did Max Carroll pass away recently?
What?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Mm.
He had a brother named Jax, Jackson Max. Isn't that cute?
Well, I tell you, it's going to be one big night. I tell you, I'm going to be there. September the 30th, Harding High School. It'll be at the stadium, right, Dorothy?
Correct.
And you're going to lead them onto the field.
Hopefully.
I can't wait to see it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. 62 years in the making. We're going to go on this Friday into a couple more current events because there's some other big things that happened this week, and we touched on it yesterday. Religious broadcaster Pat Robertson stunned 700 Club viewers when he said divorcing a spouse with Alzheimer's disease was justified. Robertson, chairman of the Christian Broadcasting Network and former Republican presidential candidate, said he wouldn't put a guilt trip on someone for divorcing a spouse with Alzheimer's disease, calling Alzheimer's disease itself a kind of death. And Marianne, you brought this up yesterday. What are your feelings on the actual things he said?
Well, it's true. It is a kind of death. But, I mean, you leave your spouse that you've lived with all those years, divorce them, and then who takes care of them? Yeah. I mean, to me, for an evangelist to talk like that, I mean, that's certainly not a religious feeling or a Christian feeling. I mean, I'm just amazed at what he said. I can't imagine it. I mean, to me, it's horrible.
Well, Marianne, I guess because I saw him on some shows, what is, because we do have divorce, what is justification for divorce?
Abuse?
And nothing else?
Well, no, I wouldn't say nothing else. I mean, sometimes the marriage just doesn't work out. And so, I can understand divorce. I really can. And I've been married 55 years, but I can understand people who get a divorce, and there are reasons for it. And I would not judge that at all. But to leave a spouse when they're ill. I mean, it's just, to me, incomprehensible.
What if the spouse says beforehand, because I know a lot of people have this conversation, especially people with Alzheimer's disease, they say, you know, I don't want to be a burden
Oh, I know.
on you.
I've said that myself many, many times.
So,
And
what,
yes, and you don't want to be a burden. But I don't know. I just, to me, it just sounds terrible.
well, I think, I don't know, I don't watch the 700 Club, and I'm not sure exactly what he said aside from the press release that everybody's
Maybe it was
released.
just taken out of context.
Well,
I don't know.
what he says is he wouldn't put a guilt trip on somebody who divorced somebody who had
Well,
Alzheimer's.
Yeah, that's a little bit different, I think, than to say it's all right.
I mean, everybody has their own mind. Just because Pat Robertson says it doesn't mean you have to do it. And he is the leader of the Christian Broadcasting Network. I mean,
It
certainly...
seemed out of character is what I'm thinking. It seemed out of character. But again, you know, maybe that was taken out of context.
Now, out of character for Pat Robertson, I don't know. Isn't he the one who said homosexuals caused 9/11?
Oh, did he really? Well,
Now, something of that nature, and
That's
we'll get the
horrible.
exact quote, but he said things of that
I
nature.
don't believe that.
Charlie, what do you make of Pat Robertson and his Alzheimer's?
I've watched Pat Robertson, the 700 Club. I think it's, is that a Christian Broadcasting
Yeah.
Network. But I don't agree with half the things he says. He's getting too old. He's getting senile. And I just don't, I have no love for Pat Robertson.
In the day when we bounce Jerry Lewis and we bounce, oh boy, age is a horrible thing. You're off the air. Forget about it. Why does Pat Robertson, if he is senile, if he is making these remarks that are causing a lot of problems for Christians, why does he stay? Or how does he stay? How come people aren't calling for his job in his own organization?
Well, people are still sending money.
Yeah.
They send money to a lot of evangelists. And this is something I really study. I watch a lot of evangelists. And they have things like, they want your money, but they call it something else. Seed. Send us your seeds. And it sounds a little better than send us your money, folks.
But you know something, Charlie? You know something? I know a lot of people go to church. I mean, what is it? 91 or 92% of Americans are secular. They go to church. Now, what is different between a person who claims to be a preacher going on television and asking you to tithe, as it were, or somebody in your church on Sunday asking you to tithe, as it were, which most churches do?
Well, most people that go to a church would give to that church they go to, not to an evangelist on TV who is trying to present a lot of charisma and try to talk people into giving to them. But I'm sure most people would give to their own church first.
I hope so. Let me ask you this then. How viable of an organization is the Christian Broadcasting Network?
Well, I don't know. You'd have to watch it. People would have to make their own opinion on that.
Well, this
It's
is their
on
head.
every day, every afternoon.
And this is their head.
Yeah.
Pat Robertson is there.
And he has a
Chairman.
Yeah, and they do news and other things. But Pat just, I don't know.
Marianne, if in this country, okay, this is a good example, I think. Sarah Palin has become the ipso facto leader of the Tea Party movement. A lot of people don't like Sarah Palin, so they say we dislike the Tea Party. Pat Robertson is not ipso facto. He is the chairman of the Christian Broadcasting Network. If he makes comments like these, how viable an organization is the Christian Broadcasting Network?
Oh my, that's a big question, Scott. I wouldn't even begin to answer that question. I have no idea. But
Well,
there are obviously a lot of people out there who watch it and who feel good about it.
Well, let me put it this way. Obviously, the Christian Broadcasting Network sanctions what Charlie said. They sanction going on television and asking for money. Obviously, they do. All the programs do it. So is that a good... Charlie obviously feels it's not a good practice to do that. Do you feel that's a good practice, that's sanctioned by this group? Because, by the way, coincidentally, Christian Broadcasting Network is not commercial television. They get the tax breaks. They don't pay the bills like a normal television station would.
a lot of the Christian broadcasters starting to sell nutrition products too as a supplement to their income. But let me tell you a story. Stan Hewitt Hall over in the Akron area, I met, in fact, I know the manager of Stan Hewitt Hall. His mother was infatuated by this evangelist over in Akron of the Crystal Cathedral, and she ended up giving all her money to him, and when she died, that was it. No more money in that family.
You know, though, I interviewed Leroy Jenkins one time, and yeah, not too long ago, a matter of fact, he was coming back to Ohio. And you know what? When he comes back to Ohio, to this day, he draws a huge crowd. He's charismatic. Is there any difference between a Leroy Jenkins and a Pat Robertson? Is there, Charlie?
I don't know. Depends on their ideas about the technicalities of religion.
You know, I always think this really dates me because it's a movie that was, long time ago. It was Elmer Gantry. Did you ever see that movie? And it was about an evangelist who, you know, was really crooked. And he brought in all this money. Every time I think of people going on television and raving and ranting and, you know, stirring everybody up and so forth and so on, I think of that Elmer Gantry movie. I think Burt Lancaster was Elmer Gantry.
That's right.
Yeah, I think he was.
Yeah.
And I always think of that. Now, Billy, Billy Graham, yeah, I think he was a very respectable, very
Yes,
well.
now there, yes, you're right.
He was a fine person, and I thought a lot of him. But I don't know about some of these other people. I don't watch them, so I really can't give an opinion. But I know that Billy Graham was, you know, a fine person.
Now, I guess I would ask this, because when Billy Graham, he's kind of was the forerunner in the beginning of, would you call him a televangelist, I guess, because he did his revivals on television.
Yes, he did.
And he did raise money that way. That's how he did it. He used to be on Jack Paar, Larry King. He became very visual.
He was a friend of all the presidents.
All the presidents.
So what makes Billy Graham of a different ilk than a Pat Robertson or
Billy
Pat
Graham,
Robertson?
well,
Okay,
Billy
you're
Graham
good.
never spoke out like Pat Robertson.
No.
If he did, he wouldn't have had the stature. No, there's so much
There's
difference.
a big difference.
So, well, now wait a second. So is it okay to be on television and ask for money as long as you don't make outlandish remarks? So it is okay to go on television and ask for money.
I think it's all right to go on television for, yes, definitely. I mean, that's a privilege.
up to that
yes,
person,
That's up to that person. You know, I don't get any religious fervor from it, but yes, it's just like anything else. It's, you know, it's a free country.
Right. Well, yeah, it's
Well,
free
I'm
to
not
do
gonna
it. It's
judge
legal.
whether-
It's
yeah.
legal to do it,
Right.
certainly. But I guess what I'm saying is when we came down on Pat Robertson, when I started this conversation and said this comment was not a good thing, obviously, and then we say, you know, and he also does things like goes on television and asks for money. Billy Graham did that, but he didn't make the comment. So it's not the asking for money we have a problem with.
Well, I don't know. If people are willing to spend their money like that, that's their decision. You know, I would not say it's right or wrong. I wouldn't do it personally because I give to my own church. And I mean, sometimes these evangelists get this this wild, you know, fervor with people. I don't know what it is, but to me, it seems false.
You know,
It seems false.
You know something I think it was with Billy Graham, and I like Billy Graham. I saw him interviewed, and I've seen his programming. I like it. You know something, what I think it was with him? He was likable.
Yes.
And that was it. He just was a likable personality. Dooley, we're having such a personal conversation here. Get in. What do you think of what Pat Robertson said? What do you think of Billy Graham just on all this?
I think we have to be very careful what we say
Yes.
to that microphone. We have to be careful. Sometimes we just have to keep our mouths shut about things. And I agree that it's just dangerous for the public, especially how do I say this without offending all of you, since all of you are much, much, much older than I am? Thank you very much. I got the laugh
Oh,
there.
that's so nice of you to say that.
The more older we get, it seems like the more vulnerable we are. But the televangelism is very impersonal. You get this. You get as much spiritual portion from socializing with our own churches.
Right.
But the televangelist generally, I don't think really cares about that. They are interested in a business, and I think that is somewhat of a difference. I really do.
Big difference.
Well,
I think so.
Well, let me just ask about the person then.
Okay.
If the televangelist is interested in the business, what's the difference between a Billy Graham and a Pat Robertson? The person, not what they do, but the people. Because
my opinion is that Billy Graham was a friend, a pastor to those presidents, just the same as he has been to us.
Mhm.
The
Yes.
public, the viewing public. That's my
right.
opinion. That's
He was
my
a
opinion.
religious icon, really.
Right.
Yeah.
is there any? I don't think there's a problem with that. I guess what I'm saying is there anybody who in the religious world is of Billy Graham stature? Because the reason we even say the name Billy Graham is because he was on television. We know him from what he was written about. He didn't live in Marion, Ohio. We know him from what he did. Same reason we know Pat Robertson. Same reason we know Leroy Jenkins. Same reason we know all these people. I guess the question becomes, what separate? I'm trying to figure out, because I don't know the answer. What separates Billy Graham from the other people? Tough one. Dorothy, you're our guest. Do you have any comment on this at all?
He comes through as if he is a true Christian. I think that's the difference with Billy Graham. Because what he tells you and what you listen to, it just is really here. It's not far out.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Good
I don't
answer.
think he went
Yes.
into this to
Yeah.
make a lot of money. I really don't. I think this is his calling. And they all get a calling if they're really true Christians.
And he's really, honestly, a genuinely likable guy. If you watch him on anything, he's likable. He doesn't come off as harsh.
There's one more person that's a very likable, and I can't remember his name now. He's got curly black hair, and he has charisma that,
Joel Osteen.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Joel Osteen.
Yes.
He really has a following.
He does.
Thousands
Yes, he
attend
does.
his.
What was that? What about Ted Haggard, though? He had this huge following, and look what
Ted?
happened to him. Ted Haggard, yes. He was the...
I'm not familiar.
Oh,
What happened
search
to
that name. He got involved in a sex scandal and
Oh,
was
wow.
ousted out of his position. So, you know what? It's believe in what you believe in and believe in...
Right.
Don't believe in the men, I guess. The men
That's
are
right.
flawed. Nice way to put it. Interesting. I did not plan this, but here's the mailbag question. By the way, if you want to submit a question to the mailbag, you do so by going to the Exchange Marion on Facebook or irmcommunication@gmail.com. From Doug and Marion, do you believe in life after death? Do you believe in anything after death?
Oh, I have to tell you about this book that I just read, and it was a bestseller and millions and millions of copies, and it's called Heaven is for Real, and it's about this little boy who, it's a true story, and he had this terrible infection and almost died, and come to find the parents said that, you know, he was in heaven, and he said things that were unbelievable, that they couldn't understand how he knew this information, because he was only like 4 or 5 years old. And it's a wonderful book. It's very easy to read. I read it in 2 sittings. It's called Heaven is for Real. And I know it was on the bestseller list.
Marianne, what happens when you die?
Well, you know, that is a mystery, a total mystery, and I think about it almost daily. I mean, is it...
Strange, I do
is-
too.
I mean, you know, you think of all the people that died.
The closer
and-
you get.
Well, yeah,
Right.
and all
Yeah.
the people that died for centuries and centuries and centuries, are they all up there looking down on us? I mean, you know, and the people that you love who died, are they looking at you and thinking? I mean, it's really, nobody knows. And
Do you have an opinion?
I sure hope there is.
I hope.
I mean, I certainly do.
What
Because
does Dooley believe?
All right. The reason why I told you that I've lived 2 or 3 lifetimes is because I think I have.
Really?
And there's a lot of people
Seriously?
who would be very disgusted to hear that. because they think that reincarnation could only happen to Christ.
But we got to have you back. We're 2 minutes left. What
Yeah.
a big softball that we're going to have to talk
And,
about that. That's,
and so I think that once we expire, we are in heaven for a while, and we come back.
so you've been to heaven.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yes.
What's it like?
It's very much like the pearly gates, and it's a gentle place. It's nice. It's about like being in Hawaii.
There are angels flying around?
Actually, I sprouted 3 or 4 wings myself.
Well, see, this is what
Actually,
this
there
little
was
boy
3
said.
because I couldn't fly very well.
This little boy said everybody had wings.
Do you see the people who went before you?
I've met several of them. Yeah, I didn't quite see a person, but I've met. I know that I met. My question when I was there was, how many of you people am I representing right now here on Earth?
We've got to have Dooley back.
Wow.
Martha, what happens when you die?
That gives me the chills, because I thought you were just joking.
What happens, Martha, when you die?
I want to be with my husband, Joseph Anthony Manesi.
And I'm sure
I want
you.
to tell you what I do at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning. I go to St. Mary's Church. 9 o'clock, I go to the First Nazarene Church. I go to Tri Rivers at 10 o'clock to see Keith Irie. 1 o'clock, I go see Mr. Wonderful Christian Broadcasting Company, David Aiken.
So a firm belief in heaven. Dorothy, what happens when you die?
Well, I'm sure you go to heaven, and I have an experience when my mother was passing, 3 days before she left this earth. She was so angry because she wasn't getting better. And she cried out to God in anger. And just at that instant, and I get chills to think of this, she looked into heaven and she saw everybody that she had been related to. She named them. And the last one she said, and I see you too, Jesus.
Wow.
There's never been a doubt in my mind.
Wow.
I went to bed and slept that night. 3 days later, my mother was gone, but I knew where she went.
Oh.
Well, we're going to have to talk about
you
this.
know, but you know what? Do people like Hitler? Do they? I don't think
No.
people like that get into heaven.
Charlie, what happens when you die?
It depends on what kind of a life you've had. I can't imagine, though, dying and turning off a switch. I like Marianne. I think about this all the time.
Any conclusions?
Does it all end when you die?
You know what gives me peace?
Well, here.
Go ahead.
It's another thing. The universe.
Yeah.
How far out is a wall at the
Yeah.
end of the universe, and
Yeah.
how thick is that wall?
Yeah.
Figure that one out sometime.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what? These are the two things, and I'm going to go through them super fast here, but they give me some kind of peace. And we're going to do a show on this, I just decided sometime. Life after death, does it happen? We're going to do that. Two things. I saw somebody pass away in front of me one time, just of old age. Something does happen to the body when that moment, you know. A doctor doesn't have to come in and tell you that
Yes.
somebody have died.
Yeah.
Something happens, you know. So that's interesting. Something leaves. And I've always felt the thing that gives me most comfort is I hope you go see the people who've went before you. I hope there's something afterward. I hope it goes on. But if it don't, I'll never know the difference. So there you go. I guess that's the way it goes. See you on Monday.